What's cracking, guys? This is Bruce Madsen, your host of the show, Metric Scout Fantasy Football. And today, I'm going to do another rant on a player. And this one was a request from a subscriber. And I'm going to be talking about Chris Evans. And I think he is a tremendous buy in Dynasty, a guy to look for in Redraft. And I like him a lot. And I just want to backtrack a little bit to earlier this spring, maybe even before draft season, to how I felt about him. Because in retrospective, just objectively viewing him from the process, I think I've been in like a roller coaster with him. I don't know what my content was like with him whenever you viewed me talking about him last, because I imagine I was either here on him or here on him. And really, I think to average that out, I think I was just in a wait-and-see moment and very reactionary. But with the data, with everything that's happened here with the offseason, everything's pointing up. I did not like his production coming out of college, but after not liking his production out of college, I ended up liking his production out of college, or semi being like, wait and see on it, because I don't like Jim Harbaugh. I don't like Harbaugh. I don't like Michigan. I don't like what they do with their recruits, how they handle them, how they allow them to enter the transfer portal. We see this with Zach Charbonnet and go blow up. Donovan Peoples-Jones is doing well with Cleveland. Chris Evans here might be another case where they just let their prospects go to hell and then get drafted in late rounds, and then we see them flash at the NFL. How much will we flash? We don't know. The Bengals don't have sunk cost on him, but he made the 53. And there's some good things in his prospect profile that we can look at. First off, his athleticism. He had an over 40-inch vert, and that gave him a 94th percentile burst score off the rip. He's 5'11", 211 pounds, so he has the size to be a full-time grinder. The Bengals need him. If something happens to Mixon, Samaje Perine's not checking out for them anymore, Evans could be that dude for them. Another thing, and this is a thing that we don't really talk about. It's kind of a fallacy anymore. And shout out to Peter Howard, my dude, my coworker at DOF. He hates vacated targets so much that we have to bring it up as vacation targets. If you say vacated targets in front of him, near him, in the same room, he gets mad, starts punching babies and stuff. There's not a correlation with players leaving their team and then this random dude on the team getting the targets. But Gio Bernard is gone. He averaged around 57 targets a season during his entire career there, and he's been steady. Obviously, the Bengals have a history, doesn't even matter the coaching regime, of using Bernard as a passing down back. We know that's not Samaje Perine. That 4.6 some 40-yard dash isn't going to cut it in that role. We have Chris Evans as the third back, so there's a chance he gets some chops on passing down duties. In preseason, whenever there was a passing play when he was on the field, he was blocking just 20% of the time. It was actually like 19.7 or whatever, but we'll round that up to 20. So usually when the team's passing, Evans is running routes, and that's indicative to what they want to do with him on the field when he's on the field, because they know he's got some receiving chops. We saw him make some good plays, catching the ball, the backfield, downfield. Passes were caught as well from Evans in preseason, so there's a lot of good things. Joe Mixon hasn't had a clean bill of health. I like Mixon. I think he does a lot of good things. I think he's got a good athletic profile. I think he can be a workhorse for the Bengals. He can be a pass-catching specialist for them as well. But to be honest with you, running backs get hurt. That's what happens. And then you got to look for talented running backs on the roster, on the back of the depth chart, that could potentially pop. We got one here with Chris Evans. He's got athleticism. He's got size. And he wasn't like a jag at Michigan. He had big plays. He had big moments. He had 614 rushing yards during his freshman year, 685 yards during his sophomore season, and things just went to hell after that. I'm got to give his years at Michigan with a grain of salt, but right now, he made the 53. He's showing up in preseason. The pathway to workload, there's some resistance, but his overall attributes, can get him using the passing game. He can catch the ball in the backfield. He has been documented stating that he's been studying Gio Bernard's role from previous years, how he would implement himself in the offense. He might have had a side conversation with coaches or something like, hey, this is how we want to use you in this offense. We think you can blossom in this role. You have the right skill set to give us what Gio Bernard gave us, and maybe a little bit more if you put the time and effort into developing yourself. And with those quotes stated in the media, that's an indication that might be something we're looking into. And again, I get it. Gio Bernard was not an RB1. Gio Bernard had a lot of promise come about him during his rookie season early on in his career, and it kind of faded. He's always had another running back with him to carry the load. He wasn't always the guy. However, you got a guy drafted in the 6th round, good size, looks the part when he has the ball in the open space. Then he starts getting targets. Let's say he gets 30 targets this year. Maybe 40. 30, 40. Low end, maybe 25-ish. Pops off a few good runs. You picked him off your waiver wire in Dynasty. You drafted him with one of your last picks in the rookie draft. You got him cheap. We got him cheap. That's all we want to think about. We got him cheap. That price tag, that trade value on Evans is going to go up. It's going to go up some, where you can trade out, you can hold. It's whatever you want to do, but you just gained some value on your Dynasty Fantasy Football team. From a redraft perspective here, when we're looking at Chris Evans, we want to have talented handcuff running backs, talented backup running backs at the back end of our roster. Because starting running backs get hurt. That's what happens. That is why the zero RB strategy is in place. It's not in place to be pretty on the internet. No, it's because starting running backs get hurt, and we just want to stay away from those guys, and we draft the talented backups instead at a low price tag. I'm not even talking about zero RB, but I'm just telling you, starting running backs get hurt. And if something happens with Mixon, who would you rather have, Samaje Perine or Chris Evans? Who's going to give you more upside? Who's more likely to help you win your league? Samaje Perine, if things go to hell with Evans, he'll probably give you some production. If Evans hits, he could be to the moon. Then we got some indicators that could happen. Usage in the passing game creates a steady floor. We got a good burst score, decent size, 4, 5, 7, 40-yard dash time. Not too shabby, good enough to get the job done. I mean, we got some indicators there that we can get some heat from Evans. So I wouldn't suggest drafting him in the redraft, but I suggest having your finger on the trigger, ready to pull on that baby just in case Mixon goes down. And if he starts getting snaps, if he starts getting targets, say he starts averaging 3-4 targets a game, you're going to want to pick him up, especially if you're in a PPR league, just in case injuries happen, just in case bye weeks hit you hard. The middle of the season can get rough. Attrition can get rough in fantasy, and a guy that's getting steady targets, steady workload that adds to some production that can help you out in a pinch is always good. Chris Evans, I'm not saying that he could be an instant RB1. I'm saying that you're getting a cheap asset with a very low sunk cost who's got a lot of upside. I'm talking upside like we saw with Christine Michael back in the 2015 era. You're talking about a guy with not much college production, high burst score, looks sexy on the field, and the value rises every time he makes a highlight. That's probably going to happen with Chris Evans. I put a tweet out there about him today on my Twitter. Engagement went up like that. People are gnawing at the bit. They're just watching to see what happens with Chris Evans. I mean, I got a suggestion to do this video. So there's some underground love for him. You got to gauge the market. And the market is emotion. So you got to gauge the emotions of the trade value there, of your league mates, social media, and whatnot. That is not easy to measure because it's not measurable, but one thing you do is just see how people interact online when you bring them up. And I'm telling you, he gets engagement when you talk about him, and that's a big thing. If he spikes in value any way, shape, or form, he can get some meaningful or not so meaningful production and still gain in value. And we're talking about a guy who was drafted in the 6th round. Again, probably can pick him up in waiver wires in some leagues. It's probably on a taxi squad in one of your league mates' teams. If you want to pick him up, you can. If you want to trade for him, that might be a smart thing to do just to see what happens. Maybe get him as a throw-in. That's probably the smartest way to get him on your team, as a throw-in and a much larger deal. Redraft, you want to have your finger on the trigger, because if he starts popping off, he could pop off hard. But I want to thank you for watching the show, sticking with me. Please hit that subscribe button on your way out. Every subscription matters. It fuels me to keep putting out this content, motivates me to help you guys with your fantasy teams, go over film tape with you, and everything else I do with the channel. But again, I want to thank you so much, and I'll catch you next time.